This is Joe with joe'saskyourphoto.com. Today we're going to be processing the Tulip Nebula, Sh2-101. We're going to start this video with our H, O, and S masters already up. If you need to learn how to get this point, you could refer to my other video on processing M45, where I go over the B-link process as well as the weighted batch pre-processing, so that you could take your sub-exposures and get them to where we're at right now. So let's continue on. The first thing you want to do is see what we have to work with. So we'll just do a STF on each of these images. They all look pretty good. I think we probably need to do some cropping. If you can see here that there's some funny stuff going on the side of this one and the bottom. And the other two are pretty clean. There's a little bit of funny stuff going on the oxygen as well, just along the side. So the one that looks the worst is the sulfur, and it's not really bad at all. So we'll do a dynamic crop. And we'll just get a box going up here. We'll change that after. I think this could go up a little bit on the top and on the side. That's pretty decent. So we'll apply these to the other masters and then execute it on sulfur. So now we have all three images integrated and the same. So we can close the dynamic crop, and now we're ready to do a quick automatic background extraction. So when you open this, you want to make sure that your target image correction and the correction set to subtraction, and that, well, I'm going to discard the background model because I don't need it. And we just start applying them. And then I like to rename these to something simple. So sulfur, I just rename S. And the old, or the original master, I'll just put down here for now. Let's apply this to O. And we'll do the same. Wow, look at that. My oxygen filter always puts huge rings around bright stars. I seriously need to consider looking into a better oxygen filter. So let's minimize this. Original master. And apply to hydrogen next. So we're done with the automatic background extractor, and we've got our three images. The next thing we're going to do is go into process, all processes, and linear fit. And we're going to choose H for our reference image. And we're going to apply this to the other two images. What this does is keeps the background the same on all images. And we're using our hydrogen alpha master as our reference image, so that they're all the same brightness, because usually the hydrogen alpha is the brightest. All right, let's close the linear fit, and we're ready to combine these images. So we'll open up Pixel Math, and we're going to check off use a single RGB expression. Under destination, you want to make sure that create new image is checked and that it's in RGB color. Under R, we want to put our sulfur. Under green, we're going to put sulfur times 0.2 plus H times 0.8. And under blue, we're just going to use oxygen. And let's give this a shot and see what we get. So before we move on, I wanted to mention that on the hydrogen alpha master, I usually run a deconvolution. However, in this particular image, with this many stars behind the nebulas, areas that it'll bring those stars up and it'll kind of take away from the nebula. But it's always a good idea before you move on after this point, or before you combine your images in Pixel Math, to run a deconvolution on here. Okay, with that said, let's move on and see what our image looks like. All right, not bad. A little green, but we're going to fix that. So let's minimize this and make sure this is highlighted, and I think now would be a good time to run the MultiLinear Transform. And these values, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I got from a forum or a video somewhere. They work really well. You can add, they usually start with 4 layers. You could add the 5th layer right here, and you could just copy the screen. I'm going to work on finding where I got these values so that I can give the person that actually came up with them the real credit. But this is this works very well. So the first thing I want to do is turn on the preview mask, but in order to do that, we need to remove the screen stretch, and we're going to apply a real-time preview and then click on preview mask. And this will show what's going to be protected. And everything in black will be protected from the multi-scale linear transform. So we want to add a little bit more amplification. So we don't want to wash out the middle nebula too much. Alright, so I'm going to try it at 820. I usually don't go that high, but that's what's bringing this out. So we're going to close the real time and we're going to turn off the preview mask. We're going to stretch this again, and we're going to make a preview to test this on. Let's go to preview, and we're going to apply this to the preview and see what we have. Well, that cleared it up pretty good. So let's go ahead and apply it to the whole image. There we go, and we can get rid of this preview. And we can close this. Okay, the next thing that we do is apply background neutralization and color calibration. And this is pretty simple. We just drag the background neutralization and the color calibration onto our image. I know that looked like it changed pretty drastically, but remember, we're still in linear, so if we remove the screen stretch and reapply it, you'll see what it actually did. Okay, so we're color calibrated. We ran the multi-scale linear transform to clean up some of the noise in the background, and now it's time to stretch the image. So we'll open up the histogram transformation and we'll reset the screen function. We're going to lock this in place with this check mark, and we're going to open up the real-time preview so we can see what we're doing. And we're going to come to the midtones, and we're going to pull them all the way over to the dark. About right there. We're going to apply that. We're going to reset. And we're going to take the darks and we're going to pull them up just to the other side or before the curve starts. And we're going to take our midtones and we're going to kind of do the same. As you can see, the image getting brighter and I'm pulling more stuff out, but I'm also losing some data. So I'm going to bring that back to about right there. And we're going to apply this and reset it and look at it one more time. And I think we'll bring the darks back towards the curve again. And I think the midtones are pretty good right where they're at. Maybe we could brighten it up just a little more. Maybe right there. Okay. Apply this, and then we can close this and close this. And here's what we have so far for our image. Now it's time to get rid of some of the green. And for that, we're going to open up the SCNR tool. And I'm going to actually do the full amount of green reduction and just apply it. Alright, that looks pretty good. And what I normally do to get rid of some magenta color stars and some of this microlensing artifacts from the ASI 1600 is to go to image and invert and run this again on an invert image. And you'll see a lot of the green got cleaned up. And we'll re-invert. Yeah, and now the magenta's gone and it's gone from here as well. So we can get rid of SCNR, and the next thing we're going to do is make a quick mask with the range selection tool. I'm going to pull up the real-time preview, and we're going to, using these sliders, you can make the mask how you want it. You just need to experiment with the sliders. And I can see right now that we're going to have to get rid of that bright star over on the right. So that looks good. We'll apply this. That creates our mask. We can close this. And we don't want this bright star in our mask, so we're going to go to Process and Painting and Clone Stamp. Reset it. And we're going to move this up to 40 on the radius. And we're going to hit Control, click. Oh, 40 is not enough. And we're going to change this to 200 on the Clone Stamp. And that's better. And we're just going to click that off. And now that bright star won't be included in our mask. So we'll apply that. Close this. And now we're going to apply our mask by just grabbing and dragging it onto our image. Alright, now let's minimize the mask. It needs to... You can't close it because we're using it, but we want to get it out of the way. And we're going to go up to Mask, and we're going to click off Show Mask because we don't need to see it. The next thing I want to do is we're going to run the HDMR multiscale transform to add some contrast to our nebulosity areas. And because we've got the mask on, it's only going to apply to where the mask is, which is around the nebulosity in the image. And what I like to do before applying it to the whole thing, I usually take a preview to see what it's going to look like. And we'll just try it with the defaults. Hey, you could see that it added a lot of contrast. We have, we'll undo it and then redo it. So I like that. We're going to apply it to the whole image. Okay, got that done. We can remove this preview, close this. Now with the mask still applied, I'm going to open up curves and open up the real-time curves transformation preview, and we're going to make this a little bit brighter. And again, this is only going to affect where the mask is. It's not going to affect the background at the moment. And we're going to go to saturation, and we're going to saturate our nebula a little bit. And in this particular case, I want to saturate it more than I normally would, almost to the point of looking unnatural. It's just artist prerogative in this particular image. I wouldn't do this with some of the other targets, but this one in particular, I just kind of want it to really stand out. So we're going to apply this once, and I'm going to apply it again, but with less vibrance this time. And actually a little bit less brightness. So that's what it looks like. Okay, and apply. Alright, reset this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to invert our mask. So now the nebulosity in here will not be affected. Everything else will be. And we're going to make our sky a little darker. And just a tiny bit less saturated. Not by much, just a little bit. Okay. Alright, we can close this. Close this. Alright, we could remove the mask. We're done with it. And I'm going to clone this image. And I'm going to save it as a 16-bit TIFF. And we're going to take it over to Photoshop. Actually, we're going to save this image and we're going to take it over to Lightroom Classic, I think. So I don't see a need to make much changes after. So I've brought our image into Lightroom Classic, and I just want to add a little bit more vibrance and maybe crop it a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is give it a little bit more contrast. And I'm going to make the oranges a little bit more to the red side. And I'm going to saturate the blues. Now we're just going to crop it. And I think I'm going to go with a vertical size crop. And put the Tulip Nebula along the right side. That's it. And then we'll just export that out as JPEG.